What's good, family? It's your boy Craig, and it's 1/3 of the Baldwin clan, and we coming to you live today with another video. It's been a while, and we miss you guys, but we hope all has been well. We wish you guys a happy new year, and pray that this year has been nothing but exciting and full of joy and full of love for you guys. Get back into posting more videos, so we're gonna try to grow this family, gain subscribers. So you guys, please turn on the post notifications. Please subscribe. Please comment. Please like and support us as we continue on this YouTube journey. So today we're just gonna do something super simple. I'm just gonna have an open conversation with a few people, and I'm gonna be recording and just literally open dialogue, like, because I feel like a lot of times you have conversations with people, where you really be dropping jewels and you really be, speaking truth and saying some stuff that a lot of people will hear, but it's never like recorded. So I'm just gonna have an open conversation and post it, literally what this is gonna be. So this open conversation is gonna be about the topic of marriage and relationships. So when we're talking about the topic of marriage, it's such a beautiful thing when it's looked through the correct lenses. I feel like in my generation and generations to come, marriage is looked at misconstrued and is looked at more so as a contract. How can this marriage benefit me? Just like a business deal of a sort, instead of looking at it as a covenant, which is the way that God has intended it to be. So I think it takes looking at marriage in the right lens to allow us to have a different perspective on marriage. So for me, looking at marriage through the lenses of God and through the lenses of my faith, I see marriage as a covenant, and I don't see it as a contract. I see it where two people come together, not in a business deal, but more so in love and unity. Because God is love, so He created marriage and the parameters of love, and that's the sole purpose of a marriage, to come together and represent that relationship that Christ has with the church, which is rooted in love. When we look at just the structure of it, we see where the Bible tells us that men are supposed to be as likened unto Christ, and women are supposed to be likened unto the bride, which is the church. So when we look at how the structure of it is supposed to be, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ has loved the church.
Wives,
Serve your husbands as the church is supposed to serve Christ. I think that a lot of times when it comes to marriage as well, the question that gets asked a lot is, when are you going to be ready? Or when it comes to being a Christian and being Christ-like, the question is, when do you think you're ready to love someone like Christ does? And I think the answer to that question is, honestly, you probably never be ready. You'll probably never consider yourself ready to love someone like Christ does, or ready to get married. But it's like anything else when it comes to faith, you have to take a leap of faith. And that leap of faith is saying, even though I don't think I'm ready, or even though I don't feel that I'm capable of doing this thing, I'm putting my faith in God's ability to make me or allow me to do this. I believe that God molded and shaped me to be a husband before I actually became a husband. So just like when you ride a bike, you start off with training wheels. You start off with the little things in the back that help you not fall as you ride. But as you get, older and you get more confident in riding that bike, the training wheels come off and then you begin to ride that bike smooth sailing. I feel like the same thing happened with me when it came to getting married. It's like God put me on training wheels before the marriage, to where I had to act like a husband, think like a husband, see things as a husband, in regards to, not messing around with different women, or regards to not lusting after people, or in regards to just honoring women in general as children of God. Stuff that I would have never done before, I had to start training my mind to do for that time, which when it would come when I would then be a husband or then have a wife. So, like I said, I don't think it's something that, you necessarily ever be quote unquote ready for, but it's taking that leap of faith. Just like a child, when you're riding a bike, with the training wheels, when the training wheels come off, you expect your parent or your big brother or sister continue to hold a bike as you continue to go, because you're not too confident. But when they let it go, it's just like, okay, I gotta take the wheel now. I have to do this thing by myself, or I have to walk in this thing. Same thing with marriage. Like, you might not be ready for that support, that help to be letting go and to jump into this new thing that you haven't never experienced. But it's like, until you take that leap of faith, it's never going to happen. I do believe that you being ready has, in a sense, to do with being obedient to Christ as He leads you to do a particular thing. So as God leads you to get married, you're not getting married because you think you're ready. You're getting married because of obedience. It's like, Lord, I love you enough to obey you, even though I don't think I'm ready for this. Lord, I love you enough to honor you in walking in this marriage, even though I don't feel like I have the capacity or the ability to be this thing, be this husband or be this wife. But it's because you love, honor, and desire to obey the Lord that you walk in obedience to His desires. So ultimately, yes, I do believe that. When it comes to preparing for marriage, I feel that a lot of times people have this notion to pray for their spouse what they desire, or what they want in the spouse, instead of having the train of thought to pray that God will prepare your heart to receive whatever it is that He has for you, or whatever it is that comes with that individual. So I think when it comes to praying and asking God to prepare you for marriage or prepare you for your spouse, I think your prayer should be centered towards God allowing your heart to be molded to receive the type of person that you're going to receive, or your heart to be shaped in a way that you accept this person in spite of their flaws, or in spite of the things that they struggle with, or in spite of the things that you don't like. So I think a lot of times when it comes to our spouses, we pray and want God to change them to be who we want them to be, or even to be like us. That's ultimately what we want when we pray for our spouses. We want them to be someone that's compatible with us. We want them to be someone that we don't think we will argue with because we agree on all things, or we want them to, be someone that sees things from our point of view or from our perspective, and, they're like-minded, they grew up in a similar culture, they grew up in a similar background, their parents were similar, their finances are similar. We want someone that's just so closely similar to us. We automatically associate similarities as something that results in less of arguments, or it results in smooth sailing. So I think it's very key to take the prayer off of your spouse and put the prayer on yourself, and ask God to help you to see them as He sees them. Ask the Lord to help you view them through the lenses of His love and His grace.
Yeah.
I think also, when we step into marriage, like I said before, even me as a husband, I had to learn to change my prayers, in regards to my wife, in regards to the one who God has blessed me with. A lot of times my prayer would just be, Lord, she just don't understand. Lord, she's just so different. Lord, help her to see things how I see things. Lord, please help her with her timeliness. Like, Lord, please do this, do that, and the third. And it's like I was asking God to change her, and my heart posture should have been, God, help me to be more like you. Help me to be more patient with her timeliness. Lord, help me to accept that she's emotional. Help me to, be more understanding that she's really sensitive instead of me asking you to take the sensitivity away. So I started to see that my prayers were generally associated with me wanting her to be like me, because I'm not sensitive. And I'm gonna say I'm not sensitive, but I'm not as sensitive. I'm not super emotional. I'm not, you know, someone that struggles with being on time. I'm like very. If we got to be there at 6:30, I want to be there at 6:25 or 6:20. I want to be on time. When it comes to confrontation, I'm one that tackles my problems head on. I address the issue. This is how I feel, and that's it. For my wife, she's more so, it takes a while for her to finally come out and say, okay, this is what I've been dealing with for a while. She's not very confrontational. She doesn't want to make me feel uncomfortable. She doesn't want to make me feel like I've done anything wrong. So it takes her a while to say things. And like, I try to get out of her, like, talk, tell me what's wrong, tell me what's wrong, tell me what's wrong. So my prayer to God is like, Lord, help her to tell me what's wrong. Instead of being like, Lord, help me to be patient or help me to be understanding to the point where I don't have to ask her what's wrong, but I already know what's wrong because I see the errors in my ways. I see the things that she's already displayed or she's already spoken that bothers her. I think that is something that's very key. Like, don't try to make your spouse become you, but ask God to help you accept your spouse for who they are. I think I think the way I think is so different than that of the world, and it's because I allow God to change my perspective and allow me to look at things different. The world says happy wife, happy life. And I do believe to a certain extent that there is some validity to that. Because when your wife's happy, when you're happy, my life is better. When you're sad and you're mopey and you have an attitude, like it makes me like it's a dread. So there is some validity to it. I don't think it's just as simple as a happy wife, happy life. I think it's a happy wife, happy husband, happy life. If we think about it, it kind of brings forth single-mindedness when it comes to relationships, that it only matters if the wife is happy. My family taught this. I'm pretty sure your family taught this. And, in black culture or Hispanic culture, like, it's literally that saying is happy wife, happy life. And it's like, it doesn't matter how the husband feels. As long as the wife happy, that means my life is happy. But I just think that it like has holes in it, because just because you happy, it doesn't mean that I'm happy. And like we learned in mathematics that a positive and a negative equals a negative. A positive and a positive equals a positive. So it can't be one happy and then one not happy, and then it equates to happy life.
Yeah, that's good.
Ooh, I like that. I like that analogy. That was very good.
That was really, really good.
I think with that question, it's not more so something that I knew, but more so something that I've listened to. You hear the same things in regards to relationships in marriage. Growing up, when you have a high school sweetheart, or you date someone in college, or you see your parents' relationships and they talk to you about different things, or you see it on television, all that type of stuff, you hear the same things. Like, communication is important, patience is important, compromising is important, dying to self. One thing that's major in the body of Christ or being a Christian is dying to self. Like, these are four essential things that's very important, but until you put in the confines of marriage, you don't process those things as like something that's super essential, even though you heard it time and time and time again. So it's like communication. All right, communication is important, but we also got to be taught that the type of communication is important. The way that you communicate is important. Yeah. So like for me, it's like, okay, yeah, all right, communication. Let me tell her everything that I feel. Let me tell her exactly when I feel it, how I feel it. Doesn't matter, how or what tone I say it in. And I'm like, okay, I communicated with her. I communicated with you. But it's like, is bigger than just speaking. It's more so how you speak. So the Bible tells us that a soft answer turns away wrath. So a soft answer is an adjective to the answer. It's saying of the way that you speak is what turns away wrath. So when you put that in the confines of communication, it's like, okay, I can be communicating to you, but I'm speaking so raw and bluntly that it's not properly received from you. Versus if I say it in a soft tone or in a loving tone or a gentle tone, I notice that you receive that so much differently. I think that's something that I wish I listened to and knew more about coming into marriage, because it would honestly save a lot of arguments. It would honestly save a lot of feelings being hurt unnecessarily just because of the way that I personally speak growing up that I never saw a problem with. I would tell people to be prepared to die. And when I say be prepared to die, I don't mean literally, but I just mean be prepared to lay down your train of thought, lay down the way that you see things, lay down your personal desires, lay down, your your attitudes, your pride, your selfishness, and all the type of stuff, because it's literally two becoming one. So it's no longer just about you. It's no longer just about the way you see things, but you have to embody love for another individual. And the Bible tells us love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Then to love your neighbor as you love yourself. That means to love someone else as you love yourself. So the only way that I can truly love you like I love myself is if I die for you. If I lay down my life for you. If I lay down my train of thoughts for you. If I lay down my pride for you. Yeah. Jesus said, what greater love is this than a man that will lay down his life for his friends, for his brethren? And laying down our life is taking up our cross daily and dying to self. So I would say just be prepared to die daily, literally. Another key component for those that are aspiring to get married and those that are even currently married, newlyweds, I would say your parents' marriage is not your marriage. Your grandparents' marriage is not your marriage. Your auntie, uncle marriage is not your marriage. Your friends' marriage is not your marriage. Or even your pastors or leaders' marriage is not your marriage. Like a lot of times coming into marriage or, being married, we often say things like, my parents did things this way, or my mom did things this way, or my dad did things that way. This is how my leaders do things. And it's like we can come into our marriage with a misconceived notion that marriage is supposed to be wired one specific way. But just like you as an individual is created uniquely, and God has uniquely designed you, your marriage is uniquely designed for a particular purpose, for a particular vision, and for a particular dynamic. So your dynamic might not be that dynamic of your parents' marriage or your leader's marriage or your friend's marriage. So don't compare your marriage to anyone else's, because God has created and molded your relationship and your marriage for a specific reason. Boundaries are so important and so necessary. And I think when it comes to being newly wedded or even in a relationship, there has to be boundaries set with friends and there has to be boundaries set with family. And the reason that is because when the Bible says that a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife and they become one, there has to be a boundary in the level in which you communicate with them, the level in which, because you come from telling your parents everything. You come from asking your parents for opinions. You come from asking your parents on what they think you should do. But when you get into marriage, it's like that dynamic shifts to where you become one with your spouse, and those same questions or that same direction or that same relationship that you have with your parents in regards to, being confident in going to them or feeling comfortable with sharing with them everything, that dynamic then shifts to your spouse. And the same thing with friends, when you're not in a relationship, you go to your friends and, you're able to talk to them about anything and everything. You're like, hey man, this guy just pissed me off, or man, this girl irking my last nerve. But it's like when you're in the marriage, your friends or family can gain a particular perspective about your spouse based on what you release to them in your season of anger or in your moments of sadness. And now they think that this person is this particular way all because you was venting out of frustration or you was venting from a place of sadness. And they don't now see the good that this person does for you 23/6. And they go off of the one time that they, made you upset. So now your friend has a vendetta against your spouse, but it's all because of you sharing in a moment of sadness. So that's why it's very important to set boundaries in the level in which, you share things. If you're married, I personally don't think you should be going to single people for advice. Like, how are they going to instruct you in your relationship when they don't even have a spouse? And it's like me going to someone that doesn't have a company and asking them how to run my business. How can they instruct me on how to run and be a CEO if they never once been in that position? But yes, set those boundaries. Let your parents know you love them, but hey, I can't tell you everything anymore. Let your friends know you love them, but hey, I can't share all of my, marital business to you. It's just personal. And in that way, it keeps things, a clear line of communication between you and your spouse, and then that of God, So that's just my perspective on it. As a married couple, me and my wife have learned to do this thing, what we call the 5-minute rule. And it's to the point where we don't even utilize it anymore because we do things right then and there whenever something happens. But we have this thing where whenever something concerns us and bothers us about the other person or just in general, we have this thing where you have to talk about it and deal with it in a 5-minute span. So it's like, okay, go take your 5 minutes, but after 5 minutes, we're gonna come together and talk. And when we come out together, the conversation has literally gone so much smoother, and the point where it's like I'm not talking with aggression because I'm angry in the moment, but because I had 5 minutes to dial down and I didn't let the problem linger for to the next day or a couple hours or to the next week. It's like we deal with the issue in the moment, so there will be no build up for a later moment. I think adopting this 5-minute rule is so vital, and it's so precious and it's so beautiful. It breeds room for you to, one, when in the midst of your anger, in the midst of your sadness, you have time to go seek God, where God can help you and allow you to come together as one and have a genuine, real conversation where you're not just listening to respond, but you're listening to hear your spouse out and understand where they're coming from. So I think that's very vital. But I think that's enough for this topic. Thank you guys for tuning in. I pray that this topic has given insight on marriage, has given insight on how I personally deal with marriage, how my wife deals with marriage. And, marriage is a complete joy. It's such a beautiful experience. And it's truly a blessing from the Lord. When two can come together, live together, walk in purpose together, raise a family together, it's literally like no other. So thank you guys for tuning in. I pray that you guys feel encouraged to subscribe to our channel. Remember to like and comment these videos, drop video ideas in the comments, and we'll be back soon to you guys with another video. Peace out. It's the Baldwins.